news has hit the Memphis basketball community today. 9 games before the playoffs, Taylor Jenkins got the pink slip and has been relieved of his duties. Now, I can't say I've ever seen anything like this from a team getting ready to go to the playoffs, and I'm just in shock. So how do you feel about this, Josh? Like, I know it hit our phones and we were just in a state of disbelief.
brother. And I got my Memphis football shirt on right now. As you know, I'm back in the city right now. I got a little PTO from the job. Should I feel some level of guilt? It's my first full day in the city. Our boy TJ lost his job. I don't know. I don't believe too much in coincidences. Like you said, Nick, the timing of this is definitely, I mean, not only nothing that we've ever seen before, but I think quite literally unprecedented in terms of a playoff team being this close to the playoffs. And you kind of see that with the national media reaction to a lot of what's going on, a lot of disbelief in terms of the national NBA coverage. But shout out to home team Molly, that works for BR, friend of the show. She's popped on before, and anybody that's really tapped in with the past, really the post All Star break Grizzlies knows that a change was needed with this team. Defensively, it's been a sieve, but also I think in terms of whether it's an inavailability of Ja Morant, just the general vibes around the team. You got strong ass Desmond Bain shoving the shit out of Santi. Like I think that anybody that's the team on a regular basis could tell that the vibes are off, not just only on the floor, but the general gist of the team. And this goes all the way back to, we both said it, Ja Morant's on the bench wearing a shiesty mask, during the game, with a crucial playoff seeding game. So the vibes have been off for a while, but I think the biggest thing for me is if you came to this conclusion, they said that he just walked into Kleiman's office this morning and said he was fired. If you could come to this conclusion today, you could have came to this conclusion 2 months ago. And I think that coming to this conclusion 2 months ago would have gave a much bigger ramp and a much better chance at salvaging this season. And honestly, we were kind of looking at a first round exit. I don't know what any top five team in the West, top four team in the West that you could feel good about us even taking 2 games from. But a move like this really just feels like a punt on this season, which, with the contract that we got coming up, I don't think that any season needs to be punted on with our core.
Yeah. Like you said, this is just a big head scratcher, but I understand the move because if you look at Grizzlies Twitter, everybody's been asking for Taylor Jenkins to be fired. Everybody's seen the problems with his coaching throughout the season and in the past, the rotations, the late game decisions, things like that. So we all wanted this move, but like you said, the timing just makes no sense at all. We're still top four, top five in the West. We had a good chance, I think, of winning a playoff series with the Lakers, just considering the size advantage we would have in that series. And once you get to the playoffs, you never know what can happen. But to your point, now we're going into the playoffs, punting on the season, and I just don't know where this franchise is right now, and I definitely don't know what the future holds, especially without a head coach in place.
I do want your honest thoughts about this. Obviously, Ja has had enough, trouble, keeping clean off the court. But even beyond that, we got a young core. So it's not a situation to where it's a Braun or even a Lucas situation to where they're so embedded to the organization to where it's an expectation that a move like this will be run by them. But do you think that a move like this happens without at least, their approval? If John Morant, Jaren Jackson, and Desmond Bain were emphatically wanting to keep Taylor Jenkins as the coach, no way that you do this. I don't think that you
Yeah.
can. So do you think that whether if we do see Ja play tomorrow versus LA or some sort of general turnaround in terms of the vibes on the team, do you think this is an indicator that if not the whole team, that our core three was out on TJ?
I mean, I think we kind of saw the cracks start to come, especially over this last stretch of games. Like, seems like everybody who the Grizzlies play is coming in getting a free 120 against the Grizzlies, and a lot of that I think comes down to culture and your willingness to play for a coach. Like we've seen the Grizzlies team be locked down, play hard defense, stop teams from scoring, but now it seems like you alluded to that they've given up, and I think the Bain and Aldama incident really signified that. Like when those cracks in the culture show, especially like that, I think you have no one to point to but the coach. So maybe, getting Taylor Jenkins gone will bring a fresh vibe, some new energy to the Grizzlies team. But I definitely think that this was a move that was at least mentioned to our guys talking about the core three. And I definitely don't think they had an issue with this move being made. I haven't seen any of them say anything on social media, especially not like a "we gonna miss you, TJ," nothing like that. So I think that says what it says.
No, for sure. And kind of balances out. Job of the journalist. I do that work all the time. You gotta look at the other side. I think that honestly, we would be remiss not to mention the reason why Taylor Jenkins is the fifth longest or was the fifth longest tenured coach in the NBA. It's the reason why he was the winningest coach in Grizzlies
Yeah.
history. And it's not like we've had, we literally we all just watched a 20 hour documentary. Like this is even as young as this team comparatively is to the rest of the NBA, like this is not a team that's been a doormat in the league. Like this is a team that has had success. For him to be the most winningest coach in our history, like that's not nothing. And again, I think we have to acknowledge kind of a duality. Would this team have gotten to this point without Taylor Jenkins? Maybe not. And that was Taylor Jenkins the only guy that could have developed this roster? Maybe not. But in terms of coming from the San Antonio tree with that level of respect and prestige, his closeness of age to our guys, like I don't think that the relationship and the development path would have been the same as you had somebody, a 65-year-old coach, as
Yeah.
somebody versus somebody as young as Taylor Jenkins. I do think that we have to acknowledge there's a reason why expectations are there. But we would also be fooled to say that we don't have, I mean, not us. We're not the general manager of the Grizzlies. Zach Kleiman seems to have enough information to be like, hey, you know, there's not a stopgap. We've hit our ceiling in terms of what this dude can do for our team, organization, or even just how much our guys are willing to listen to him. And I think that you have to acknowledge both things. I don't think anybody is completely. I would say honestly, up until this season, Taylor Jenkins was the best guy for this job. But I think that in terms again, you're looking at the contracts, you're looking at the way that even this year was started out versus how it's happened at what it was transpired over the All Star break. If you want to win, you want to utilize your core's prime years. Tough decisions, quick decisions like this had to be made, and like you said, this is not a decision as shocking as the timing is. I don't think the majority of our fan base disagrees with it. You know.
Yeah. And I will say this though. I think a lot of times when you have a long tenured head coach and you keep running into that same, you're not able to climb the mountain. Sometimes you need that new voice. You know what I'm saying? Think about the Celtics teams. They went through Brad Stevens, Ime Udoka, Joe Mazzulla gets the job done. Same core guys, two different coaches couldn't get the job done, but the third guy does it. We always talk about Mark Jackson and the Steve Kerr transition in Golden State. So maybe this is just an incident of he did what he was supposed to do. He developed the guys. He kept us as a winning organization, established a winning culture, got us to where we needed to go, but he just couldn't get us over that hump. So, credit to Taylor Jenkins, like you said, but I think both sides just knew a change was needed.
And again, like I said, I think the biggest issue with me for me is the timing in terms of you feel like you're
Yeah.
putting on the season. But like I mentioned, the level of history that you got with this guy, even if I put it out on Twitter, like if you think this is the move to make, there is no need to wait. But I do think I would have not disagreed with giving this guy a modicum of respect in terms of letting him finish out the season with all he's done with
Yeah.
the franchise. So it's you
And
know
I will say that is weird because like we have historically been a franchise that has been good to players, good to coaches. We've seen the end of Zebo and Mark's careers, sent Mark to get a chip. We've always done right by guys, so definitely this was a strange veering off the path for the Grizzlies as an organization, in my opinion.
No, for sure. But I think that at the very least, whether there's been a lot of debate about who's the big dog in terms of the shot callers, in the Grizz organizational hierarchy, whether it's TJ, whether it's Kleiman, how much input that Perry even has. So I
Yeah.
think that with this decision, obviously coming down from Kleiman, he was the one that was quoted in the statement that they put out. But also the gall to make this decision with the lack of I was not even lack of the regression that's happened to this team to the trade deadline. I think it's pretty clear who's the big dog in terms of making a decision within the Grizz front office. Now, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I don't know if I decided on that yet. Not too happy with what we look like after the trade deadline. But I think at the very least, there's been a clear definition of the hierarchy within the organization.
But no, I will say that this is a very interesting time to make the move as well because if you look at the gauntlet we got coming up, looking at Lakers, Boston, and Golden State coming up in our next three games, that's a hell of a way to get your first NBA coaching experience. But you continue to talk about the trade deadline, and I really want to see what you think about it because I saw it as a good move and getting off of Marcus Smart's salary, a guy who played less than 40 games in a Memphis uniform, and was eating up a lot of money, getting him off the books, trading LaRavia, a guy who we didn't really have room for, but he was having a great contribution to the team. I didn't see those as the net negative moves that just resulted in this team's fall off. But why do you keep going back to the trade deadline? And why do you highlight that as kind of like the fall off for the Grizzlies?
I mean, if this team, do you think let's just flip the record? Do you think this Taylor Jenkins gets fired even if this team is 11-8 versus 8-11, or even they're 11-8, they're 10-9, but giving up 115 points a game versus I like you said at least a free 120 versus
Yeah,
25. So I think that I mean, as we see, whether we talk about Cleveland going on their 4 game win streak or some of the contenders like LA, I mean, maybe not LA, Boston that's been playing a little bit. Houston has been playing a lot better as it gets down to playoff time. This is where the cream rises to the top. And it's been an unfortunate trend all year. But the Grizz have been fake demons against good teams. And that was not a trend that before after the All-Star break. That's been the thing. It's kind of been a continuous theme of the year. And this is around the time that you wanted to have seen some correction in terms of that. So to see it go the other way, from my perspective, I feel like Kleiman had a decent understanding that he wanted to do something like this. Probably again, once he saw whether it's the inability, he must have known some stuff that we didn't know in terms of how the guys were interacting with TJ, and he might have been waiting on the record on the encore product to kind of save him. But once you have, potential dissatisfaction with your main guys and they're not playing well, what are you holding on to him for? Even if it is 9 games before the playoffs start.
yeah. But now let's kind of talk about the future a little bit. Thomas is it Isola?
I believe that's Tomas. I think that
Tomas, I'm sorry.
no, you're
Finish.
good.
Finish,
We,
guy.
we're going to have to say it a lot, apparently. So we might as well try to get off on a good start. I think potential homie, friend of the show, White Station High School alum, Devin Walker on the Chris Vernon show today. Because I don't believe we got no shot with the last name. Well, I think we're gonna go with Ti. Shout out
Hey,
to King
that's
South.
hey,
So
that's
it's
hard.
like
That's hard.
let's like I said, big Ti. But yeah, go and do your spiel.
No, I'm just saying, bring him in as the interim. Obviously, a guy who was credited for a lot of the new offensive things the Grizzlies were trying this year. Getting off to a hell of a stretch with these three opponents coming in. Do you think this guy is really going to be the future, or do you have another outside option that the Grizzlies should potentially look at? I saw somebody on Twitter say firing TJ after Cal get fired, but I mean after Cal lose, but who am I?
You're a respected media member on Grizz Twitter. That's who you are, sir. I think like I mentioned earlier, the point that gotta think Jenkins and Ja came to the Grizz at the same time. Taylor started in Ja's rookie year, so I think that at the point that this team is at now, in terms of again, all your guys are your prime. Dad is said to get his money. Jaren has gotten his money. He's probably gonna get another bag if depending on
Yeah.
all NBA. This is no longer a developmental stage. This is a win now stage, and you need a coach, whether it's age or experience, that reflects that. You see a lot of people talking about like Sam Cassell,
Okay.
like head coaching experience maybe, but in terms of relationship ability to relate to players, is somebody that's been through the fire in the playoffs, even if it hasn't been as the top guy on the chair. That would be a move that would excite me. But I do think you need an older coach, a la a Hubie Brown or a Lionel Hollins. Maybe not those guys, but guys in those vein. You need an older coach, somebody that can hold Ja accountable, can hold Jaren accountable. It don't need to be a buddy feeling like a peer situation. We need somebody that can be like, hey, Mr. Demetrius Moran, if you're good enough to, get up and down, you need to play tonight. Jaren, I know that you've been the guy that's been holding the torch most of the season, but we need you now more than ever. Dez, we need you to stop going 1 for 10 against good teams. You need a coach that can firmly hold these guys accountable versus, what I could imagine, kind of, Jenkins kind of tiptoeing around it or not doing it at all. So, like I said, older guy, somebody with some playoff experience. And I think Tomas is just a little too similar to Taylor. So we'll see if they go 9-0 over this last stretch. Then obviously you're
There's
gonna at
something to
least
be
give them a
talked about.
shot.
Yeah.
Exactly. But
The likeliness of that happening though.
exactly. And again, even all the stuff that we talked about, the main on-court point of contention has been the offense this year in terms of the lack of utilization with Ja. Well, you're promoting the guy that is primarily responsible for said new
But
offense. So I don't
I
know
want to
how that
say
kind of
this though.
matches.
I want to say this though. When you're giving up 120, it's hard as hell to play offense in the half court that many times. So for me, the name Sam Cassell was immediately the first name I thought of when we got rid of Taylor Jenkins. Being a Celtics fan, he's a guy who's been credited for a lot of that Celtics defensive identity. So that was my first thought in this was get a guy who's defensive oriented, can get those guys to buy in on that end and see how dynamic this team is in transition when we get to run, get easy buckets. And then we can worry about the half court offense later because if you think about it, that's always been our problem. We've been great in transition and we struggled in the half court, but now we can't get in transition anymore. And I think that's the biggest issue that needs to be addressed when we're talking about the future of this Grizz team. And like you said, I think Tomas falls too much under that Taylor Jenkins tree, but he does have some great coaching experience winning the Euro Cup with Paris basketball. But this is the NBA. He hasn't done it yet. We'll see how he does over these next 9 games, but I definitely am in favor of looking outside of what we have right now.
I mean, like I said, we never know, but if you look at a resume that Tomas has, it looks very similar to a guy, David Blatt, that Coach LeBron, and obviously it's LeBron James, but at the very least, he didn't get in the way. So I think that
Yeah.
the success that you can have with some of these coaches that have these Eurocentric resumes, again, you don't know what you don't know. Another name that I've seen before and that I looked up what he's doing recently, and apparently he's on leave from the team. Jeff Van Gundy, talking
Mm.
about a free 120, 125 every night. Jeff Van Gundy will not allow that to happen. I was going to use a couple of metaphors, but I'll stay. Jeff Van Gundy, your defense will immediately improve.
For real.
Jeff Van Gundy at the helm. So again, addressing the defensive issues, addressing the guy that's been in the fire in terms of playoff experience, and with those Knicks and all those things that he's been through, but also an older guy that would not be afraid to hold accountable Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson, this man, get in their face and do it in an aggressive manner. So, what do you think about that?
I mean, I love it. And he's also a guy who's very relatable to the players as well. We've seen the relationships he's built from his time on TV. And, the fact that you said that, fuck it, let's get Jeff Van Gundy and let's get Mark Jackson as an assistant, bro. Get the old ESPN broadcasting crew on the Grizzlies bench, man.
With all due respect,
Oh, God.
I'm not mad at it. So let me ask you this, Nick. What what do you want to see? What do you slash do you need to see from Tomas and or just the encore product to give you any sort of confidence going forward with our guys, whether it's trying to salvage the rest of this year or even going forward?
Yeah, I think the three big things I need to see are one, we need to buy in on the defensive end. That's where I think a lot of our problems stem from, as I said. So if I see some defensive buy-in, if I see us limit Luka and the Lakers, limit Jaylen Brown and the Celtics, limit Curry and Butler and the Warriors, then I can have some faith moving forwards. Two, on the offensive end, I need to see Zach Edey utilized in a way that makes sense. We know what Zach Edey can be in the pick and roll, what he can be just in the dunker spot as an offensive rebounding threat. Let's please utilize him in the right way and make him playable since we spent a top 10 pick on him. And then lastly, number three, I just want to see Ja Morant be Ja Morant, man. Like that's the biggest thing. He's our engine. He's our guy. If he comes back and he's healthy, I just want to see Ja be Ja because we all know that this Grizzlies team will only go as far as Ja Morant takes us.
And that's the thing too. That's like, you have your following the sword moment essentially. If John Morant plays at least 65 games, over the past 2 seasons, Taylor Jenkins is not getting fired. Just point blank period. So it does suck that I feel like a lot of today's result is directly related to Ja's inavailability, but that is kind of how not even just the NBA, the cycle professional sports goes essentially. You're always gonna either scapegoat or get the coach out of there before addressing, the roster or your star players. So I mean, again, we know how this kind of goes, but it kind of sucks that again, we've seen the highs with this guy. Think about 2 years ago, a second year, third year guy leading this team to a two as a 2 seed with we looked like OKC 2 years ago. So and it just our main guy has not been able to play, hasn't been able to stay on the floor, stay out of trouble, but also stay on the court. And I think that we could get again, if Taylor Jenkins could get 65, 70 games out of Ja Morant, I think, and he still had these same issues, I think that would be a true indicator of his ability or inability to lead this team. But we'll never know.
Yeah. And that's the worst part, bro. We'll never know.
I want to lay before we get going. Our boy Tomas Ti, King of the South, has actually run this team for one game, intern for one game this season at the head coach and beat a playoff team. Mr. Hayes, do you want to hear the score of that game and just some of the general breakdown, sir?
I need the full breakdown because I didn't even know TJ missed the game.
Oh, I think it was. I'm like I said, I'm just going off some of the national reporting. But our boy Tomas Ti was the head coach for one game, November 6th, so very early in the season, in a 131 to 114 victory over the wildly differently constructed Los Angeles Lakers.
Mm-mm.
So under your 120 threshold, so we like that. Anthony Davis did not play, but that seems to be kind of
The
assumed.
usual. Yeah.
Uh, held them to 44% from the field, 31% from three. LeBron did have 39 points, but it's leg
It's the
goat.
king.
So
Yeah.
exactly. On
Mr.
our
Lose to the
side,
Bulls.
exactly. On our side, Ja Morant played 24 minutes, so not the usage that you may want. Got 32 out of Jaren, 31 out of Santi. I'm looking at this, it's actually kind of hurting my heart. You got a combined, if I know my math correctly, four, 29 plus 38. 48 minutes out of Brandon Clark and Jake LaRavia.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
that is it's a little tough, not gonna
I mean,
lie.
neither one of those guys are available anymore. Very
Exactly.
unfortunate.
But at the very least, our guy Ti has led. He's on one. He's 1-0. At the helm of this Grizz team against a playoff team, which we have struggled to beat.
So,
With TJ at the top. So if you want
so,
a little bit of context around a very, very, very small sample size of the guy taking over the team, there it is.
so I guess before we get out of here, bro, Grizzlies record over the next three.
Or the next three,
Lakers, Celtics, Warriors, bro. All at home too.
I say 1-2. I think 1-2. I think that with how crazy that the Chicago loss was for the Lakers, and I think that you'll get some sort of an emotional boost tomorrow with how fresh the news is.
Yeah.
Um, but I think Golden State being a lot better with getting Jimmy. I mean, they got Jimmy Butler, but I think that the stretch they're on, I think that's legitimate. I think we have a big enough sample size to be like, hey, this is not a. They'll probably end up in the play-in still, but it's not a play-in club or team.
Yeah.
They're currently constructed, and the defending champions. So I think unless one of Steph or Jimmy either underperforms or doesn't play, or Boston doesn't hit all the threes that they usually hit, I think that we'll take those L's. But I think with just how close the standings are right now and how crazy the loss was to LA, I think that I'm betting on us taking that tomorrow. But those other two, yeah. And
Yeah.
honestly, I really don't know if I even see us getting to 50 now. I really don't.
I ain't gonna lie, I would have said 0 and 3, but
And I low key
I
figured.
hate to sound like a hater.
No, and I was like, let me save one of us. Let me save one of us. But you know, man, Nick, for real, looking at these last nine, the only win that you can really see, that I can really see, I'll give us Charlotte and I'll give us Miami. But if you track our recent,
Sheesh.
if you track what we've been witnessing over the past 25 games, the rest of those teams are playoff teams. And when the last time that we beat a playoff team? So outside of straight idealistic hope, I think the most recent iteration of our team. And again, we played really hard through three quarters versus OKC last night, but it still ended in a 20-point loss. I think that any realistic evaluation of these last 9 games is like, yeah, they'll beat up on the non-playoff teams, but any good team they're gonna lose to. And that again, you got 7 playoff teams, mostly teams that are streaking at the right time. You got two gutter teams. So I think that, yeah, it is.
It's
We're
bleak.
banking on we're banking on something. We're banking on seeing something that we haven't seen in a while with this team. If we want to get to 50,
Well, you know what I'm gonna do tonight? I'm gonna put that grind towel on the ground, face it towards the Memphis Bridge, and I'm gonna say my prayers, man.
I'm about to put the Tony Allen doc on like on background noise behind me just or something like to give myself a boost. Like it's man, Memphis basketball teams in general have not been great on the mental health over this past 2 3 week stretch.
I did
I think you get out the city at the right time, honestly, bro. I think that I think that you're the part with me coming in and Jenkins getting fired. Not to put it on you, but maybe if you leave, maybe we can get like a little turnaround. We just grasping the straws and trying to see anything that can go our way, man.
for real. Penny, the bench open. Speaking
Man,
of,
something. The portal open. Go, man. We need a turnaround. Dirk just dropped the album. Young boy out of jail. Like it's stuff within the community that's happening. Now we can just localize it to our actual city. Then that would be better for both of us.
for real, bro. But that's what we got to say on Taylor Jenkins, man. Make sure y'all like, comment what y'all think the Grizzlies should do, how y'all think the rest of the Grizzlies season will play out, and hope y'all's basketball team is doing better than ours, man. We out of here.